So Emil, what type of advice are you providing?
Well, I think the first step is we really have to look at what other communities have done, what's worked, what hasn't. And one of those things and examples is Utica, New York, upstate, post-industrial, legacy Rust Belt community that went from 100,000 peak population down all the way to 40,000. So they lost a lot of people, very similar to the Youngstown story. And what they did was went all in on embracing refugees. This started back in about 1980. And since then, they've started to slowly build their population upward. A quarter of all their residents now are foreign-born, which is dramatic for a place that had very little of that beforehand. And what they did was created a welcome center. And we're kind of using this model to have a similar multifaceted facility here in Youngstown that would not just welcome the refugees and work on their cases, but also connect them to employment through a preferred employment program, connect them with housing resources, connect them with wraparound services. A refugee coming into the country is very likely to never have dealt with things like debt and taxes the way we do in our country. Usually in other countries, these things are taken care of. Taxes are just withheld. Things like healthcare. How do you access our healthcare system? Most countries have single payers. So these are all things that would be addressed in our Welcome Center.
Lisa, you've been doing this, your agency's been doing this since the Holocaust. So what works, what doesn't work?
Sure. So we've been doing things very similar to Emil, realizing that we can't do this alone. So we've recently partnered with the chamber and been sitting on the steering committee there, given a multi-year commitment to their efforts as well in a grant. We've been working with the chamber and talking to communities that have been doing these efforts because there's a lot of communities like ours. So why reinvent the wheel? Let's learn from communities who are doing this. And so we've been very fortunate to be able to reach out to Jewish communities who have been doing this. CKC in Kansas City, Tulsa Tomorrow, Boomerang Greensboro, who've really been modeling this. We were able to do this on a small scale during the Ukraine crisis and bring in some refugees during the Ukraine crisis. And so we have expertise in that area as well. And so we've really been looking at modeling that. We did this during the 80s and bringing in former Soviet Jews from the former USSR and bringing in what we called kind of Moscow to the Mahoning and settling quite a few families here. I mean, we're concerned about the same things that Guy and the chamber are, that a lot of our community within the Jewish community is made up of very strong multi-generational family businesses. And if our family businesses lose employees and their kids are going to bigger cities, then what happens? And so our campus on the north side, which serves the Jewish community, but the grander community as well. We like to say that we serve baby to bubby. We have an early learning center all the way up to a nursing home, and we serve people of all faiths. And we were built to serve 8,000 people, and we're down to 1,200 Jewish people in a 5-county area. And so we're looking to bring in and bring back more Jewish families to this area and really bring back families of all faiths, because if we can make Youngstown a better place for all of us to live, then it'll attract all families. And, with a rising tide, all of our ships go up. And so we've been, really working through our Thomas's Family Endowment that gives grants to local organizations to really try and enhance the quality of life here in Youngstown to attract young families back to this area, or really make sure that the people stay here. My family is a success story too. My husband grew up here in Columbiana County. Never thought he'd move back here. And we moved back here 12 years ago. I mean, I'm not back. I grew up in Chicago, but I couldn't be happier. Moving back to Chicago was never even on our radar. Moving back here always was. And so, the opportunities that you can have here professionally and for your kids is just amazing. And getting that story out there, because I think a lot of times we think that it's really glass half empty here, and it really is glass half full. And so really getting that story out there and showing everything that we have. But I think that a lot of our organizations have been trying it on our own. And so I think that we finally have this groundswell effort of all of us working together, and that's what it's going to take. Because we can't do it on our own. We need to put all of our efforts together to make a big splash effort. And I think that there's a lot of models out there to show us what works and what doesn't, so it'll save us from some of our mistakes.